So we have started the stream 5 minutes early at, from the time we have scheduled, so we can give some time to the audience to come in. We're gonna wait for a few minutes for the people to join in, and then we're going to start talking about the topic that we're here for today. Hello, everyone who is joining in. We're just waiting for a few people to join so that we can begin talking about a very interesting topic that we have aligned for you today. So we are just going to wait for a few minutes and then we are going to discuss and start talking about the topic. Okay. So the topic that is aligned for today is a very interesting topic, and we have seen this topic in our lives or in the lives of the people that we love and care for, which is usually related to how to deal with messy relationships. And when we say messy relations, it's not dirty or a wrong relation, it's just a relationship which is complicated, a relationship which is tangled in a certain way. And it's not only a romantic or an intimate relationship, it can be a relationship with your family or with your friends or your siblings or your cousins. So such relationship can also get complicated sometimes, right? So when we are talking about how to deal with messy relations, and when we are somewhere in a complicated relation, we think that why are we in a certain situation, and why our relationship have to be that messy, like why do we need to be in this position wherein uh, the things are getting messy. So there could be many reasons for this tangled up relationship. One of which is not being able to properly communicate your needs and properly understand the other person's need as well. So it could be with your intimate partner or a romantic partner. It could be in your family relations. It could be in your friendships as well. Not being able to understand and properly communicate what you need and what you want. And the communication plays the most important role when it comes to a conversation in a conflict or when you're having an argument. So when there is no proper communication when you're in an argument, at that moment it can lead to complicated relationships. The second point is having unrealistic or vague expectation from each other, knowing that uh, not knowing what to expect or having certain vague expectations or unrealistic expectations from your partner or from in any sort of a relationship can lead to complications. For example, one of the unrealistic expectation that I have usually observed in my clients is expecting the partner to be a mind reader, like that person should know what I want right now, like it's very obvious, like I'll be feeling in that way, but it's not. So having unrealistic expectations from the partner or from the people in your life can create complications in the relationship. The third point is lack of commitment for a healthy relations. So over here we are specifically talking about intimate relationships. lack of commitment to a healthy relationship, which means that sometimes people get satisfied with what they have. Okay, we have a relationship, let's just live our lives now by the way we want to live. But at that moment, you're leaving a lot of space for misunderstanding and complications. So commitment to a healthy relationship is very important at that moment, at that time. So it could be some, it could, moving towards a healthy relationship can look like making efforts to understand where the other person is coming from, and making efforts to understand how the relationship looks like and where it is lacking. And the fourth point on some reasons on from which complicated relationships can occur is a long distance relationship, which we have been seeing mostly after the COVID times, wherein not being physically near to the person that you love and you care for. And it could be like, again, anyone, your family, your intimate relationships, and maybe your friends. It can create a certain sort of complication. And this has been mostly observed right now more than ever. And when we are talking about these complications and messy relationships, if we are talking about intimate relationships, they often lead to breakups and divorces in such situations. And this separation leads a lot of void and leads to loneliness in people's life. So, when there is a breakup and there is a separation that happens, it leaves a lot of space to overthink. It leaves a lot of space to self doubt. And when we lose a relationship, it's not just the loss of the other person or the relationship, it's the loss of dreams and hopes and the things that you have planned for the future with the person. So it's somewhere a loss of an identity, the role that you were playing as well. So it is very important to understand how a complicated relationship can lead to a messy place for yourself as well. So when we are talking about breakups, sometimes breakups and separation initiates very unexpectedly for a partner. Because when two people are in a complicated relationship, sometimes it happens that one person is overlooking a lot of complications just to be able to be with the other person and solve and pray and hope that, okay, this complication will get better eventually, and trying hard and trying to understand how what they can do in order to make it less complicated and make it a healthy relationship. But maybe the other person is not ready for that, and at that moment, when the breakup and when the separation comes unexpectedly, at that moment the psychological distress is very very high. It leaves a room for self-doubt. There is a feeling of rejection that comes in. There is a feeling of being stuck and not being able to let go, which is very prominent when it comes to a sudden breakup or a sudden separation. Okay, so there is a very interesting research that was done in Columbia University, in which they took few people who recently had a breakup and recently went through separation, and they put wires in their brain to understand which part of their brain lights up when they are going through a breakup and when they are looking at the pictures of their ex partner. And what they found out that the same area lights up in their brain when it gets lights up when there is a physical pain or a physical harm present. So it somewhere relates to the fact that how painful a separation can be for a person. Right? And when you are going through a breakup, there are very different processes that comes in. One is the obsessive thoughts and cravings that comes in. Like you find yourself obsessively thinking about one person. That means like continuously thinking about one person. And this obsession and then this obsessive thoughts lead to craving, lead to uh, you wanting and having this urge to talk to the other person. And somewhere it leads to impulsivity, and then you go forward and talk to the other person as well. So there is a lot of rumination that is present, just thinking about the other person, what they might be doing right now, or thinking about the past, like what we have you have gone through, and what are the good memories that there has been, and then coming to why is this happening to us and why this is happening to me. There is a lot of nostalgia that comes in as well, and we look at the past in a bright and in a very happy filtered way, like okay, everything was so beautiful, why does it have to be so complicated, so messy? And so the rumination is present somewhere during the whole day. Even if you're working, even if a person is working, there is just this thought coming in and going through in back of your mind. So sometimes when you're going through the breakup, the first thing comes is in rumination. Second thing is usually what happens is you try to distract yourself. A person tries to distract themselves when they're going through a breakup, and they try to immerse themselves in work. Maybe just after waking up, they're like, okay, fine, let's just get to work, so that they don't think about the breakup or the other person and the complications that there are in the relationship or there were in the relationship. So once you start to go and emerge into the work, once you get the time, or maybe at night, and once you're done with the work, at that moment, all the emotions and all the thoughts that were avoided during the whole day comes flooded. Like they just comes back again, and the emotions hit harder at that moment, because you've been trying to avoid a certain thought for a longer period of time. And what also happens is that certain places and certain things starts to trigger the urge to talk to the other person. So every time you look at the place, and every time there is a thing that is associated with your ex partner, or things associated with the things that leads to complication, just triggers that feeling of loneliness or guilt or anger for the partner. It could be if you have an ex partner, it could be watching a rom-com movie again and again that you watched with your partner, and thinking like, okay, we watched it together and how happy I was, and look at me right now. And at that moment you are indulge in self-pity. So there are these things that usually happens when a person is going through a complicated time after a breakup. There is a very interesting study that happened which talked about the gender difference in between uh, male and female, and what happens when they're going through a breakup. So it was found that females ruminate more, think about, overthink, and just have a chain of thought a lot more than male. And what how male distracts themselves is going under work, like going through a lot of work, so they distract by working a lot. And females are more indulged in thinking about the relationship and what could they have done right or wrong after going through a breakup. So, if you remember, right now I was talking about a very interesting study which was done in Columbia University, which concluded that physical pain and the pain that it happens and the pain that you feel after having a breakup is same, like it is similar. The same part of the brain lights up when you're going through a breakup and you're going through a physical pain, right? In the same study, there was a very interesting point that was found out, that despite that pain, when the people who were in participated in the research came after 10 weeks, the part of the brain that lighted up after looking at the ex-partner's photo was not lit up anymore. So it shows that it is possible to recover, and it is possible to be resilient after a breakup or a separation. So this is something which actually moves on, and this is something that you can recover from, and you can deal with the complications and the messy part of the relationship that comes in. Okay, so if we before coming to how to actually deal with this messy problems, and how to actually deal with the messy parts of the relationship, and how to move on from the breakup, is there any questions that anyone have right now? So let's just have a quick question answer part and then move on with the session. So do we have any questions? So Hamid says, I'm getting the remembrance always on the days we spent together, and it's not allowing me to work from there. It is very natural. And remembering your partner when you're working, and it maybe distracting you to work, and not you're not being able to focus on your work, can be very dysfunctional as well. So I would like to know, first of all, how long it has been since you're not talking to the other person, and how are you feeling? Like, how hard are you on yourself at that moment? Like, are you expecting that, okay, you should not just think about her anymore? Or you're giving yourself some space and giving yourself some time to focus on the things that you need at this moment? Okay. Kana says, how do we deal with a person with high self esteem in a messy relationship? So, if you are the one who have the highest self-esteem in this moment, you would be I would be needing to understand if you're the one who has high self-esteem or the other person. But if there is a discrepancy, or if there is a difference that is coming in the esteem part, you can always have a better communication with with your partner. I think assertively talking about what are your needs and how you are feeling at that moment and a certain moment is something that can help you bring a better relationship and move towards a healthy relationship. I'm always getting this feeling that why this is happening alone to me when all others are happy with their partner. That can happen. Like, this is a feeling that happens when there is a lot of comparison that starts to happen. So, uh, getting to know, like, why is this alone happening to you is something I think you can talk to a very close friend about it, or you can come to therapy as well to understand the underlying factors, like why is this comparison is making you feel in a certain way. And when we are talking about comparison, and when we are talking about why the other person is happy, and why is this happening to me only, there are always certain different factors that are associated with you feeling lonely or alone as well. So I would encourage you to try to identify and find what are the other factors that are contributing you to feeling this way as well, contributing you to feeling alone as well. Okay. Sometimes I'm not getting sleep for several days. Sometimes do I need to consult a doctor? Hi, Mira. Uh, I think if there it has been several days that you are not able to sleep, and I think consulting a doctor would be a good idea. But here I would want to know, why is that? Like, why are you not able to sleep? Is there some thoughts that are coming in, or are you thinking about certain issues that are not making you sleep? Or is there certain sudden change that happened in your life that has contributed to less sleep? How to deal with Ayusha asks how to deal with it when other person's heart want to stay but his mind is not letting him stay. That is a very heartful question, I would say, and I can understand how messy and how complicated it can be when you understand where the other person is coming from and you understand the intention behind it, but their actions are not matching them. So here, I think that the same thing is happening. Like the intention of the person is different, but what he is doing is something different. So I think, and at this moment, having a proper conversation, having to understand what is the other person's priority, and Ayusha, understanding what are your priorities at this moment is something that would help you to bring a conclusion or would help you to find the solution of this question. Like, not only try to understand what the other person wants, but Ayusha, what do you want? Try to understand that as well. Okay. Gotham says, my partners become violent, sometimes physically. Okay. So, physical abuse is something that can be very triggering for a lot of people. And if this is something that is happening, I think talking in a private session would help you better in understanding where do you stand with it and how do you want to move forward with the situation. But I think it is unacceptable, and you can move forward in the private session in a better way for the answers and going forward with the solution for it. Do we have any more questions? Ayusha says, what if the other person don't want to talk just about it? Rest all he takes care of. Want friendship but not relationship. Okay. So Ayusha, at that moment you would be needing to decide what you want because no one can tell you how to move forward with a certain situation. So I think, or you can take a therapy session to understand what are your priorities and what are your needs if it's getting difficult to understand it by yourself or the feelings are very overwhelmed at that moment. Do we have more questions? So I'm very glad that all of you are being very open about asking questions because these are very personal, very delicate questions. So I'm very glad that all of you are asking and engaging in this session. Okay. So let's move forward with the event, with the session, and what we were talking about is messy relationships, and there is a very important factor in relationships and a very important social aspect of relationship that we have overlooked right now, which is relationship with your parents. So a messy relation or a complicated relation with your parents is also something that cannot be overlooked in any way. And it's not like now I'm an adult, now I don't have a messy or a complicated relationship with my parents, but when I was in my childhood or younger, I used to see a lot of arguments and fights between them. So it doesn't matter if this was in the present or in the past. If you have ever felt unsafe or not comfortable at your place, at your home, I would encourage you to go for therapy and talk to a counselor because a lot of issues that are there in the present, or maybe there is certain complications that you have been facing in the present, can be because of certain childhood traumas or childhood experiences. So I would encourage you to go to a therapy session and talk to a counselor about any messy relations or any arguments, or any time you have felt unsafe at your home. Okay. Now coming to the point wherein we discuss about how to actually deal with these messy relationships, and how to deal with the complication that happens in a relationship. First of all, if you've recently had a breakup, or if you're recently got separated from the person that was kind of your love of your life, or a person that you actually thought a future with, I would request you to do not expect yourself to move on completely and be like, okay, fine, I don't care anymore. Or just expecting yourself to just move on and focus on your work and focus on your life completely, because that is difficult. You would be needing to give time to yourself to process what has happened. So do not expect from yourself to move on that quickly, and do not expect from yourself to be very hard on yourself to move on and move forward and not think about the partner anymore, because that is very unnatural. So there are certain thoughts that will be coming into your mind. So you would be needing to treat them like a wave, like it comes and it goes, and it settles down. Okay. The second point is, you can distract yourself. Use some distractions. Some distractions could be work. These distractions could be talking to a friend, and you can engage in self-care activities. And the self-care activities can include taking care of your sleep hygiene, your work hygiene, or it could be engaging yourself in physical activity as well. So physical activity and self-care activities is usually the things that help massively moving forward through a breakup. And this is what you can do in that 10-week span that we have just talked about, in the experiment that we were talking about earlier as well. So if in that temporary short term period just after the breakup, if you're engaged in self-care activities, there is a higher probability of developing resilience and improving the recovery period as well. And talking about the recovery period and talking about the period just after the separation, uh, there are many places, people, and activities that you do which can trigger the urge to talk to your ex partner, or to talk or to behave in an impulsive way when you are in a complicated relationship. So, understand what are the places, people, things, and activities that are associated with this urge and impulsivity to talk to the other person, and try to understand and identify them, and try to control and try to manage that cravings as well. So, try to develop some new routines in your day which is not related to your ex partner or the partner that you have a complicated relationship with, because this will give you a new perspective as well on how to deal with things. So develop a new routine that will help you rewire your brain as well to move forward with a different solution and a different approach towards the problem. Okay, so these are the three most important points that I wanted to share with you today on how to deal with a messy relationship. One was to do not expect a lot from yourself. Don't be hard on yourself at this time. Second, distract and self care activities would help. And third, rewire your brain by including a new routine in your life. This will give you a new perspective on the problem that you're facing as well. Okay. So these are the main points that we wanted to discuss with you today. So now the we are open to ask questions. So if you have any question about what I've just spoke, and if you wanted to share something with us, we are open for that. Thank you. So, do we have any questions over here? What does it mean if next person cares but don't want to show that care or affection or love is still there? Ayusha asked this question. Like, what if okay, so this is a very specific question that you're asking, and it's again a very particular question. So, if I've understood it correctly, that if you were going with the next person or you're meeting another person and he cares but don't want to show that care or affection or love. So again, like you're looking at the intent of the other person, which means he wants to care or he wants to show love, but he's not doing it because he doesn't want to show it as well. So I think again, communicating and getting the clarity of what the other person is thinking can help, but you can't force someone to work on themselves or be like completely clear about that and then let you know so that you can make a decision out of it. So I think at this moment you would be needing to focus a little bit more on yourself and understanding what are the problems and what are the needs that you have in the relationship that are not being met. So over here I'm more talking about not having an unrealistic expectation from your partner or from yourself as well. Like it's okay if the other person doesn't want to show love. I am fine with it until and unless they feel for me, and I'm completely fine with that. So these are the things that are only lead to complicated relationships. And at this moment, either you can take a therapy session to look into the strategies that you can use with your partner, or you can move forward with relationship counseling and couples counseling as well. I'm sure that you would have heard of it. So if you haven't heard of it, couples counseling is for two people who have different ideas or they are having this complicated relationships and then they work towards having a healthy relationship. So this would help as well. Kana says, I am afraid of confrontation. Maybe that's why I think I'm in a messy relationship. What should I do to act more confidently? Uh, this can be a problem. And if you're afraid of confrontation, I think looking into what is actually you're afraid of. Is it rejection that you're afraid of, or has you have confrontation created an unsafe space for you in the past? So I think looking into why you're afraid of confrontation is something that you can look into and work on yourself, and that will eventually empower you and make you feel more confident. I think that this is the best approach to go with the problem. Do we have any more questions? We have 10 people in the stream right now. You're most welcome. Okay, so we can end the session over here. And this was our first live session. So I'm very glad that all of you joined and all of you were very interactive throughout the session. And thank you for sticking with us. And my name is Pooja Verma, and I'm a counseling psychologist with Care Me Health. And I would request you and I would encourage you to take a therapy session or encourage people that you know around you that could use a therapy session to know more about themselves and move towards self-awareness and self-discovery, because this can be very helpful for the people that you think that it can be helpful for. Okay, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Shiba. Okay.